All right, this is the temple, the Valley of the Temples, and this one is Concordia, which is dedicated to peace. Now, it's really well preserved because it was turned into a basilica at a certain point in time, and that's why when we look at these squares over here, they were actually later, they were tombs. So these squares are actually part of a necropolis, and you can see inside where the cella is supposed to be, that's actually where the basilica is. And I don't quote me on this, but I believe that they kept the exterior Doric columns. However, they had the actual basilica with 4 walls. All right, bye. All right, I am inside the Duomo, which was originally a Greek temple dedicated to Minerva. So if I take a little 360, you can see these columns over here. So you see these columns, but then as you go back, over here, you can tell that we're actually inside the cella. Now, the cool thing, aside from that, is that right over here, this is actually a Caravaggio. So we have a Greek temple with a Baroque painting. How cool is that? All right, one more turn so that you can appreciate it. See those 2 Doric columns? And then right on the inside. On the outside, rather. All right, bye. Hello. We are in the oldest museum in all of Palermo, architecturally. And what we're looking at here are the triglyphs, 1, 2, 3, and the metopes from Salonunte. And what we're seeing here, these would have been in Temple C, and I did take pictures of Temple C, we all did, but for anybody that wants to know, these metopes are extremely high relief. So I'm gonna go really close right now so that you can see this 4-horse chariot. Look at that. You can literally see the charioteer up here with all 4 of the horses. It is massive. Can you imagine seeing this go all the way around the frieze? Buongiorno. So we're still in Syracuse, and we are right behind me is a Roman amphitheater. And basically, if you look from this area, let me do it this way. If you look right over here, this would have been covered, this area, and then people would view from these seating areas over here. And there are channels throughout underneath, and they're actually behind the camera, staircases, so they would have areas where they would take a poker and poke animals and get them out on stage, and then they had like a pulley system so to lift them up, and then they had gladiator fights. I can't say it, gladiatorial fights. Anyway, so it's pretty impressive. And on the outskirts of this, tons of sarcophagi. Buongiorno. All right, so we are at the Archaeological Museum, and right behind me we have a dolio. Two dolio right over here. There's one here and there's one there, and these are massive pieces of pottery. And what they would do is they would put these in the basements. They would dig and put them in the ground, but
to about this length over here. You can actually see this one didn't go all the way under because there's a differentiation between dark and light. And what they would do is they would, you know, store oil or wine, and it would keep things preserved for a longer time. Now let's see if I can move this over here, because there are some massive amphorae. Can you see? Can I see them? Can I see them? I'm just going to do a little walk over here. Yep. Maybe if I go like that. Nope, that didn't do it. Well, there are some massive amphorae over here, and they're huge, and I presume that they also, you know, had half of the amphorae in the ground for refrigeration, or not technically refrigeration, but to, you know, preserve oils and wines. So that's pretty cool. All right, bye. Okay, so buongiorno again. We are at the Roman villa of Casale, and this area is are the latrines. So what we're seeing here is a deep channel right along the way. Now, that area would have been covered up with marble and have a hole that you would sit on. Now, right next to that deep channel, let's see if I can get, yeah, right next to this deep channel over, rather here, this deep channel, there's a smaller channel. And what they would do is they would have a little sponge with a stick or something, and they would have water going through it, and that's what they would use to clean themselves. Now, those were reusable sponges. Reusable poopy wipe sponges. But at the same time, this is where you would go, and there was running water. Ciao. Right now, if you look behind us, it looks as though we have some ionic columns. However, I'm going to turn around right over this way, because we are right by the bathhouses. So right behind me, we actually have a sweat lodge, and beyond that, we actually have the bathhouse, or the baths. And there's a channel that goes underneath where water pools, and it gets heated, and it makes sort of a steam room. Now, what's interesting actually are the not the frescoes, rather the mosaics. So if we take a look right here, what we're looking at here is probably the proprietor of the bathhouse or somebody of importance who's getting rubbed down. So you see, no. Right here we have presumably a slave who's actually rubbing down the proprietor, who's the big man. Now, if you look to the far corner, at the very end of the wall, you see another boy who's holding a strigil. So a strigil was used to scrape, and he has a circular thing that he's also holding in his hand that's hanging, and that is actually filled with some sort of fragrances. Below them are two more boys with a bucket and one that is holding a broom. So we are in the bathhouses right now. And this is presumably an area where one would go to get a massage. Now, if you follow me a little bit over here, we have a frigidario. Now, this is really interesting because it's actually made of marble. So you can see the marble floor, and marble walls. The thing that's nice about this area is that when somebody was trying to cool down, this is where you would go to do it. Bye! Okay, so this is the royal commode. So these areas would have slabs on them, and these slabs would have holes, and you would do your business in there, and then it would flow out. And then right over here, and you can see an irrigation, a pipe, they would have sticks that had sponges on them, communal sponges, and that's where you would, you know, clean up after yourself. They also had water that would flow through out here, go into another area, so everything was very clean. Now this was the royal commode. This is where the emperor would poo-poo in comfort. So in this section,
this would presumably be India. And what we're seeing here is a tiger, and this tiger, it's playing with a ball, but what it is it's a mirrored sphere. And what they're doing is they're distracting the tiger. It thinks that it's picking up a cub. However, when the cub is distracted by the mirror sphere, they can take all of the other smaller cubs and then bring them back to the Roman Empire. It's pretty clever. So this is a massive mosaic, and it's showing a hunt scene. And right over here, this is probably the emperor. And what we're seeing here is they've let out all of these animals that come from all over the empire, mostly from Egypt and Africa, and they're showing how ferocious they are, and they're fighting them against other people to show that when they put them into the Colosseum, they're going to have some really crazy battles that they can, be entertained with. A lot of commerce is happening here. It just keeps going and going. I am overwhelmed. See that rhino over there?
Right, I'm reading it. Here Noah came back out of the ark, or returned from the ark, then to ark. All of the he returned out of the ark all of the animals.
And they're the animals.
Yeah. But all of this in Latin is talking about different events in church history or different stories from the Bible. Here, Peter and Paul went up to Nero, and they disputed with Simon the Great.
Did you get it? Buongiorno. We are in Savoca, and right here we're at Bar Vitali. I think it's reading upside down or backwards, but this is actually the scene from The Godfather where Michael falls in love with Apollonia, and he goes and visits Apollonia's father, and he's like, well, what do you think, you could just come here and date my daughter? And he's like, no, I want to meet the family and everything. And the father says, all right, you come and have dinner with us. We all know how that ends.